The airstrike killed a cameraman and a broadcast engineer from the pro-Iran, pro-Hezbollah network Al Mayadeen television and a cameraman from the Hezbollah-owned Al Manar TV. They were among 18 journalists staying in the compound, and the journalists had moved to that village, Hasbaya, from further south because they believed it was a safer place from which to cover the conflict. They were told there was no active Hezbollah military activity in that area and the village had not been targeted by Israel. They also said they'd made UN peacekeepers aware of their location, and the UN had passed on to the Israelis that it was a media contingent that was staying in that compound. We spoke to one of the Lebanese journalists who was staying there when it was struck, and here's what she told us.
We went out to check on each other's, and unfortunately, we found out that 3 of our colleagues had been killed.
The Lebanese government has called the strike a war crime. The Committee to Protect Journalists says it's outraged and appalled, and this is not the first time that Israel has killed journalists working in Lebanon. And in fact, the Committee to Protect Journalists says the toll from this conflict now stands at 131 journalists and media workers. The vast majority of those are Palestinians who were killed by Israel inside Gaza. Speaking of Gaza, reports are now that conditions there are getting even worse, particularly from Israel's intense campaign around the Jabalia camp in northern Gaza. The Israeli military says it has forced 45,000 Palestinians to evacuate that area. It says it has killed hundreds of Hamas fighters there in clashes. We know there's also been an Israeli attack and activity on one of the main hospitals in that area, and some of the casualty reports coming in from that offensive are very high. There's enormous international concern around the displacement and the casualties in northern Gaza. The United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner Volker Turk says Israel's actions risk emptying the entirety of the area of all Palestinians. He says Israel is asking Palestinians to choose between displacement, again forced displacement, or being caught in an active combat zone. And he says Israel's actions could be atrocity crimes, possibly even extending to crimes against humanity. He's asked the international community to immediately step in to end what's occurring in northern Gaza. And the High Commissioner has also asked Palestinian militants to stop operating from amongst civilians.